Sechta Bava basra, Tzadik Tes Amid Aleph, starting from Tzadik Ches Amid Beis, 4 lines from the bottom, starting with the words Rabbi Chanina. Nothing L'Kiryasa. One time, Rabbi Chanina went out to the villages. They asked him a stira from 2 psukim. In one pasuk it says, "Abai is Hashabana Hamel Shleim La Hashem." The Beis Hamikdash that Shlomo had built for Hashem. Shish Ma'amal Arkei. 60 amas was the length, and 20 was the width. But the 30 amas was the height. No, wait. See, then we have another pasuk that says benegay to the measurements of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It says v'lefnei hadvir in front of the mechitzas of the base Kodesh HaKadoshim was esem amma oirech v'esem amma reicha v'esem amma kaimasei. In the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the height was 20 amas. How could it be? I mean, if it follows the dimensions, when we say 40 and 20, the 40 was including the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So, and you divide 60 by 2, it's 30 in the height. And here you see that how much was in the height by the Kodesh HaKadoshim, only 20. How does it make sense? When the second pasuk is counting 20 amas, misvas hakruvim l'mayla, he was counting from the tip of the kruvim above. By Shlomo HaMelech had built freestanding kruvim, not on the kaperis. They stood from the floor. So they stood from the floor 10 amas. Above those 10 amas, we were counting from above the kruvim to the ceiling was 20 amas. That's why it makes sense. But together with the kruvim was 30 amas. What does the pasuk come to teach us with this? And for the Gemara, HaKamashman, this is what he's come to teach us. Lemata kilamayla, that wherever the kruvim were on the bottom, it took up the same amount of space as the space that was above the kruvim to the ceiling, which took no space. And he says, just like above the kruvim till the ceiling, which was 20 amas, there was nothing there. It didn't take up any space. So too, the space where the kruvim were sitting on the ground, those amas took no space.
How do you have different measurements? One is 20,
no.
One is 30.
Oh, so he wanted to tell you, why did he say that? Why did he measure above it? To tell you that it didn't take space. To emphasize, even though there was 10 amas of a kruvim, if you take it outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you'd see it was 10 amas.
Measuring from the top of the kruvim to only 20.
Yeah, but he did that to emphasize that it didn't take space. Okay. And it said, I to Rabbi Levi, Rabbi Levi had said, others say Rabbi Yechon had said, this was given over to our hands from our fathers. The space of the Aron HaKruvim eina min hamida, meaning it wasn't included in the measurements of the Beis Hamikdash. The Aron was 2.5 amas in the length and 2.5 amas in the width. And if you start going according to the length of the Aron, which was from Tzafin to Darim, right? If you would measure from Tzafin to Darim, so you would have to deduct 2.5 amas. It was 2.5 amas in the Eirech. So it should have been only 17.5. So somebody would do that, it should only be 17.5. And when you measured, you saw it was 20 amas. If from each side of the Aron, you measured, it was 10 amas from this side, 10 amas from this side. It's like the Aron didn't exist. The Aron wasn't taking space. So that's what he was saying, Tanya Nami Hachi. And so too, we learned also in the Braisa, Aron, Shas Moshe, the Aron that Moshe made and put into the Beis Hamikdash, right? Of Shlomo HaMelech b'Kodesh HaKadoshim, it was Esmam al Esmam. Yes, le'irav chesa ames l'chol ruach. I had 10 amas to each side. Okay, of the Aron. So it means that the Aron itself didn't take any space, even though in the length, it was 2.5 amas in the length and 1.5 amas in the width. And if you would count either way, you'll see you didn't deduct in the width 1.5 amas, even though it was, let's say, it was 20 amas, so you'd have to deduct in the width of the Aron 1.5, so it should have been 18.5. Or if it was 2.5, it should have been 17.5 if you're talking about in the length. No, it says you count from each side of the Aron. It was always 10 amas. Rabbi Noy said in the name of Shmuel, Kruvim, the kruvim itself, that the freestanding kruvim that Shlomo HaMelech made, didn't take space. What does that mean? It was standing b'neis. Shenever, like it says in the pasuk, V'chamesh meyes kanaf hakruva achas. V'chamesh meyes kanaf hakruva hashenis. The kruvim are usually on the side of the body, right? Take the kruvim, you take the wings. Each wing was 5 amas. You had 2 kruvim lined up on the same line, right? Going from
Well, how do you situate the kruvim?
it was lined up on the might of side, on the might. It was lined up on the might of Kaisla Marabi. Here, you see, look.
The picture here.
Here, you see, this is the. Here you have the Kaisla Marabi. You see here, right here, they were lined up next to each other. So if they were lined up, so look, you have 2 kruvim each. The wings itself was 10 amas. We're not counting the body. The wings are on the side of the body.
No, the wings were 5, it seems.
Each wing was 5. So each kruvim had 10 together with the 2 wings. But you couldn't count the span of the wings itself, not counting the body in the middle.
10 amas, that's big.
So it's 10 amas, and you had 2 kruvims, 20 amas. But l'cheira, where's the body? The body didn't take any place. In fact, the Yimara, it's the kruvim itself of each one. Eser ames miktzos knafim ad ktzos knafim. It was 10 ames from between the 2 wings together. If you would count from one end of one wing to the other end of the other, it was 10 ames. In fact, you want to go fire the goof itself. Where was that? It stood miraculously. It didn't take any space. In fact, you want to Abai asked, how do you know it didn't take space? Dilma built maybe the wings weren't on the side like by a person, like by a chicken. It's in the back. So it goes and it's part of the back. So if it's part of the back, it doesn't take any space. So the goof didn't take any space. That's one question. Rava says, I'll ask you a different question. I could tell you it wasn't a miracle. How did you have space?
What time did the Rosh Hashanah? What time did it
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
In fact, you might have Rava asked Akasha, how do you know that they were lined up next to each other? Maybe one was against the wall and one was in front of it a little bit, so they overlapped. It's an Nishkin Raya that.
Are we still missing 10?
No, you had 10 and 10, but it was overlapping, so there was room for the body. It wasn't lined up that you could say, oh, it's mamish lined up, so it's 20, where's the body? No, one was here, one was here. So that's another shayla. Next, there's 6 of them. Maskal Avach Rab Yaakov. Avach Rab Yaakov is differently. Vidilma Abalach Sayna. Maybe they were diagonal. Here, it wasn't on a straight line on the Madav side. Look, one was might have done it, right? The quarter might have done it. What was the Mizrat Tzafin? So Allah saying that there was more space, so you were able to have room for the body. In fact, you want to ask a lot of
What does Elaxin create?
it creates more space.
If it's 20 by 20.
20, and on the angle is usually a half more. He says maybe on the bottom, like we had before, on the bottom, every structure, the space on the bottom is narrower, it's thicker walls. As you go up higher, another klima, as you go up higher, in order that the tall structure should stay, so you thin out the walls higher. So, but there's more space now in between. So maybe the wings were going up very high. So in the higher part of the Mishkan, there was more space.
It was spread out.
Yeah, it was spread out like that, and it was in the higher part of the dimensions of the Mishkan. So there was more room. Yeah, so that's what he's saying. The chawal, the space of the Kedesh Kedoshim higher up had more space, and therefore there was room for the goof. In fact, you might have asked Papa another kasha. Maybe it wasn't exactly spread out all the way. They bent the hands. Maybe it was a little. They had the hands bent. Here he says, "It was a little bit bent. It wasn't spread out completely. Like a person who bends a little bit his hands." Avashi says, "I'll ask you even better. How do you know they were spread out the wings? Maybe it was like this. Maybe they crossed the hands over each other. They were not spread out. That's what he's saying. Look what he says. It says it wasn't spread out. They had one hand. Asach mentions it's nazay, but that's maybe how the Krum were. Okay, so we finished. We don't really have a proof that the body was a miracle, that it didn't take any space. How were the cherubim standing? Towards which direction? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. It's a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. The faces of the cherubim faced each other in the face.
They turned their faces?
Yeah, the face would turn like that.
But they were standing like next to each other like this.
Either were standing straight with the faces facing each other. Yeah, turn their faces to each other. Or the whole body. Here he's not saying, referring to the body. It says upneim. I'm only going to talk about the faces. Upneim ishalochit. Chadon upneim labayis. No, the faces faced towards the mizrach. They were standing against the might of wall, and they were looking towards the mizrach with the beginning of the heichal. Says Gemara, according to the one that says they faced each other, we have a passage that says they faced towards the heichal, towards the mizrach. So if they were facing, so how do you coincide? Says, you want to like kasha, this nishkin kasha. Kan bisman shei. So here, when we said that they were facing each other, when they were following the will of Hashem, and Hashem showed the love, like a zachatana keva that loves each other, they gave a siman that they should face each other. The cherubim should face each other to show that they're doing the ratzon of Hashem, and Hashem is showing them love. But in the time when they weren't facing their face, weren't facing each other, that was the time when they weren't following the ratzon of Hashem. Yeah, when the Yidden were not, of course, when the Yidden were not following the ratzon of Hashem, doing the mitzvahs of Hashem. According to the Man De'Aman that says they were facing the heichal and not each other. So Haksivu Pneim Ishalach, it says they were facing each other. So why can't? No, you can't answer like before. So he brings down 23. If you look, you can't answer like before, because here you're talking about that the Eibushter set it up, the Chatchila to face the other side. What do you mean? The Chatchila, we're going to go on the left foot. The Eibushter is showing us love. So the Chatchila is going to tell us it should be facing the Heichal. So that answer cannot be. It has to be, even when Hashem loves us, it was set up that way. So how do we explain this? It says, it doesn't mean that the whole face was facing this way. They had the face a little bit to the side. So part of it was facing the other kruv, and part was facing towards the mizrach. Where do we see that? The Tanya we learned in the Braisa. Unklis, the convert, said, he says, this is like a mice of children. And they face a little bit sideways to each one. Like a Talmud that leaves before his teacher, so he doesn't turn his back on his teacher, he walks sideways. He can't walk backwards, he might fall. So he walks sideways so he can see both directions. Somebody who had a bird, within the house of his friend, he bought it. Inside, the Seif Beis Chaveda, it says, in the house of his friend.
How can he have a bird in his house?
Why not? He had a bird in his house, or you had to go through the house to go to the chutzah where the bird was. Whatever, he had a bird, he had to go through his house. So now that's how they divided the Yerusha, let's say, or he takis holding the bird in his house. So this says, Gemara, listen, nichnas b'shasha derech v'nei yadam nichnasim, v'yotz b'shasha derech v'nei yotzim.
So what you just answered me, Taisa's answered about the study, it could be that the English look at Chila made them looking.
Right. Oh, I saw that in the Rashbam.
He says in Taisa,
The Messiah, have a much lamema kam as much as he says with sense of God. Some I mean, yeah, the did according to that. That's the Rashbam also. I read the same thing from the Rashbam. Oh, perfect. So he says over here, somebody who bought a bird, or he inherited the bird, which was in his brother's house. So it says he can only go when people go in and out, but he can't come in the middle of the night. I'm thirsty. I have to come in. Bang. Da is in the free. Jana schlaft. Yeah, stell sich auf. I need a drink. He can't do that. He buys only in the time when is the derech to go in and out of the house. And if you think I'm joking,
today I took a visit of
here he says that here also. that shaloyat echad balabay lokum in bitoyse belaylois kidei leftoich loyas adelos as all kind of
took
drinking.
a visit of the tent with the
Yeah.
500, you saw it inside?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I'll stop a second. So you want nothing
I
happened?
saw it. That's all I saw where they sleep.
Okay, beide
I
machnis.
said when they keep their gold, and when they keep all their
Okay,
money, they have
Zag
some in the safe.
Zag the Mishnah weiter beide machnis behemte. He cannot bring his behema into the guy's house, umashke, and give him to drink. Beide from in the house, he brings the behema. And he says, okay, he gives his behema to drink in the house. What is this? Is this stall over here? Elamamale, he has to fill up his keli with water, umashke, and then he gives the animal to drink on the outside. So that's the only way. You're not allowed to bring in animal in there. The balabari makes a lock on the bird. Why? Push it that the balabaya shouldn't start stealing his water. And the balabaya also isolate pasachas makes also a lock, another lock. So each one has a lock. And why does the balabaya have to have a lock? We'll talk about it in a second. So what does this mean? That the balabaya makes a lock? Where? I mean, for what? For what purpose? They both made the balabais and the balabay made a lock for the bird. How? Bishlam balabay says it's understood why the balabay does it. Put up a lock for the bird. The bird, he wants to guard the water of his bird. The balabais lomale, but the balabais. For what purpose does he need a lock for the bird?
He has no rights to the bird anyway. Right?
He has no rights to it. Rabbi Lazar said, Mishum chashad ishtay, because his wife will be there. He might enter there without her knowledge, and they'll start being chesed pritzes that she had the hanky panky with the balabay. So therefore, he has to be aware. So that's why those that because those that will, if he can come in any time and she might be there, those that will see her together, meaning the owner of the house, the woman who's the wife of the owner of the house, together with the balabay, people will say there's a princess. He doesn't want this balabay to enter when his wife is there. The balabayis doesn't want that the balabayis should enter while his wife is there. So there should, because people will say there was princess. Right. Why? No, for Gneva we're not concerned here. So he's saying that people shouldn't be mitzi laws. That's why he's holding a lock. Here, chashad ishtay. Look inside the pnim. Shel habal habayis. You see, sharoyim yoitziu laws. She nehages with pritzes and balabay. Lafika gam balabay. So he's a mina labay. That's why the balabay makes a lock.
That his wife shouldn't
So he's you come as balabay. He won't enter unless the balabay is there.
He won't enter. His wife.
No, the balabay won't enter when his wife is there alone.
Oh, the princess
So
no, we're afraid that his wife.
If the balabay will enter,
in the shtul,
the wife of the balabayas the people will be mitzilaz on the wife of the balabayas, because the balabay will enter there just because the balabay will enter them.
The balabay won't go in
without the shus of the balabayas. So right,
everybody has a lock.
That's it. Somebody who has a very similar case here. Now we're not talking about a bird, we're talking about a garden within another garden. So now he has to get to the inner garden. So when could he enter the outer garden to go to the inner garden? He could only go when people normally go. He can't just decide, I'm coming in. There has to be these times that people normally come in, meaning in the day hours, not in the middle of the night. And he's not allowed to enter through his gina. He's not allowed to bring in. Sorry, he's not allowed to bring in into his gina tagorim, seichrim, people who are ready to buy from him vegetables or whatever. He can't bring them in to buy vegetables
the house.
through this gina, through this outside gina.
Okay.
The lo yikanes, and he shouldn't go through the outside gina if he has because he has many fields surrounding his own gina, but it's a shortcut. He goes to the outer gina to his gina. From there, he can go to all his other fields. So he's using the outer gina as a shortcut, not to use the inner gina to get to his other fields. That he's not allowed to do. He can't use it as a shortcut. Okay, you cannot go use it as a shortcut to go to the other fields. It says the one who gave a path through his gina to go to the inner gina, he could plant seeds on that path. The outer garden, it's his path. It's in his gina. He can plant seeds on the path itself.
How's the guy going to go through?
He steps on the seeds. He doesn't care.
Okay.
So the Yimana nasan loy derech minatzad. What's if Bezdin and they both agreed to make a path, but not in the middle of the field, on the outer side? The guy gave a little boundary outside his field to use it to go to the inner field. So midashneya, and they both agreed that he'll go around the field, around about. Nichnas, then he can go in, and he's not so limited. B'shoshu ureitz, he can go whenever he wants. B'shoshu ureitz, he can go leave whenever he wants. Umachnas l'sechat hagarin, and he can bring in also people to show them to buy material, because now he's not losing anything. He's coming from the outside of the field, from the border of the field. And he brings down over here, but nevertheless, he shouldn't use it as he shouldn't use it as a shortcut to use the outer gina, even though he's using the path on the outside, on the outskirts of the outer gina. Nevertheless, he shouldn't use that path as a shortcut to get his other fields.
This is all when both was agreed.
Both agreed that the path could be on the outside of the field. They both agreed to it. Says the Gemara. I just wanted to. Okay, good. So and both balei ginos they're both not allowed to plant seeds on
They
that
both have
path.
rights on that.
The owner can't, because he's not losing much. He says if he doesn't plant. That's what he brings down from the Yad Hameh. Oh, it's the Rashbam. No, it's the Rashbam. And the one on the inner one cannot plant. It's not even his. He got the rights to use it, but not that the etzem karka belongs to him. Okay, so the Yimad Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. One who says to his friend Amor, he says, "I'm giving you a canal of water in order to water Beis Hashlachim, to water your Beis Hashlachim. Beis Hashlachim is a field that cannot survive from rainwater. It needs to get a canal of water. It needs water from the outside to water it, because the rainwater is not enough to water the field. So he told him, I'm selling you a amma, meaning for the canal, to go and water your fields. He has to give him 2 amas of canal water. Meaning, let's say it was too narrow, he's allowed to widen it to 2 amas. Or he said, I'm selling
you a canal of water, it has to be at least 2 amas.
2 amas. And if it was narrow, he's allowed to widen it if he told him he's selling him a canal of water to water his Beis Hashlachim. Okay? Or he says, I'm selling you karkar in order to be able to make amas hamayim. So the din is he's allowed to dig out to make that canal up to 2 amas. And then besides the 2 amas, on the 2 sides of the canal, he has like 2 banks to keep the water in, and it should flow. Lagapel. In order to fix it, let's say the banks fall down, he needs the amma on the 2 sides to be able to fix it. Amma Beis HaKilain. Beis HaKilain is a smaller canal which is only used for the animals to be able to drink, says the Rashbam, or to wash his clothes. So he doesn't need such a wide one. He says that's what ani meichalach. Then they say amma achas l'seicha. He only has to give him the width of an amma of a canal, because that's all you need to be able to wash your clothes or give your animals to drink. And for the banks and to fix the walls of the sides of the canal, he only gives now a half am on each side. Versus if it's a canal for Beis Hashlachim, it's 2 amas the canal and an am on each side. Says Yimad Ba'isam Agapayim. And those strips of karka that the Meicha gives for the 2 banks of the canal, Lami, who has Zayram, the B'schus to plant seeds. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Balasada Zayram, the owner of the field who sold just to be able to use the canal, he's the only one that could plant seeds there. On those banks. Rav Nachman Shmuel, Balasada Neitam. Rav Nachman Shmuel says not Zayram, but he plants. Okay, what's the difference? Says you want to mandam.
Like you can plant like trees or something?
Trees is better. He's soon going to explain. Mandam as Zayram. The one that says Zayram, Kol Shekei Noitam. He holds if the person could plant seeds, for sure he could plant trees. Mandam Noitam. But the mandam that says he can plant trees, Aval Zayram Loy. But for planting seeds he can't. And he explains why. Planting a tree, where does it take root? Not at the beginning. Deep into the karka, so it doesn't destroy the karka. But when you plant seeds, he says that the seeds are really within 3 tvachim of the karka. So chachulim chachuli, he says it weakens the karka, the seeds. It weakens the karka, the seeds. You got it? So since it's all the way on the top, so it's going to weaken the karka. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Amos Hamayim, the canal of water of Ruvain that goes to the field of Shimon, right? Shekola Kapel. What happened was the banks fell. So the halacha is Mesakna me Uisa Sada. He can go from the owner of the field, take sand from there, and put up the banks on the 2 sides of the canal. And it's known that what happened with the sand, with the banks, that it broke and it fell into the field. It didn't fall into the water. And that's why he could take.
Oh, but if it fell into the water...
Maskala Papa. How do you know it didn't fall into the water? Let the owner of the field say, don't touch my sand here. Maybe your banks fell this way into the water and the water drained away your whole sand. So what are you touching my field for? Rather, our Papa answered, Shamanas came, Kibul Allah Balasala.
It was happens to his banks.
So that was he bought the Amos Hamayim with the condition that if anything happens to the banks, he could use the sand of his field, not to have to go out searching for sand and bringing it in. This is really the end, but we could do a little bit further. I'll just